many, this heat, dust, and isolation remain the perception of agriculture. However, in the 21st century, agriculture is an exciting, high-tech sector that feeds the world.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
All right. Well, good morning again. We've spoken 3 times before this already, but for the viewers, good morning.
Yes, so it's a beautiful spring day. Still not that warm, but we're getting there. And we had quite a nice response to our chat yesterday morning to Eberabi.
Yes, very interesting.
Very interesting, and we will be loading that conversation up as a podcast as well for you for one to look at. It's very much based on all the risks to do with agriculture and how to ensure those risks and what is available. So
yeah, that it is currently available on all our platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And it is sitting. I'm going to just move it over to the podcast playlist on YouTube, and then also upload it to Spotify. That will then distribute it to wherever people listen to their podcast. So yeah, it's a lot of admin. People said, you know, how many people have asked me that they would love to be a photographer because it's such a cool job and you out and about, and they do not want an office job. Well, I've got news for them. It's very much an office job.
Indeed, things when you're out in the field, that's when you've done that you're maybe halfway. After that, it's the editing and the filing and the manipulation and all of that. So yeah,
you're 10% there. Okay, right. So what did we find interesting in the news? So yesterday, obviously, we had 2 podcasts. It was very interesting, which will come out in due time, that we recorded after our stream with Ebba. So we were basically online for close to, I would say, 5 hours yesterday morning, just talking about interesting things.
Yes, your jaw gets a bit tired from clapping.
Yeah, and they call it a job.
Interesting and fun. So today we've had a quick look at the news, and what is really in the news is the South African avo industry. And in Fresh Class, it says there's an article that says South African avo industry awaits finalized post-harvest and shipping protocols with China. So
this is the interesting part, because everybody's very happy about what's going on, but there's some very interesting facts in here. And to touch on that, because we've got the experience with exporting the fruit to China with our live stream inspections that we've done, and knowing all the protocols and all the things that got to go with that, it is extremely interesting. So I've had a read through this. If you want me to talk about it, you want to read through it as we go? Okay, so the first, and this was the person that they spoke to is Adrian Ernst. He's the chairperson for the South African Avocado Growers Association. Obtaining access to China is only the start. We are excited by this breakthrough and the opportunity to develop the Chinese market into a preferred market for our fruit, which is what everybody wants. So my expectation is that South African avocado marketers who still have fruit over the next few months will send a small trial consignment or 2 this season still. So there might be some late varieties that could be coming through. Okay, right. So here's some of the interesting protocols that's in there. The protocol specifies a methyl bromide fumigation of the fruit before shipping. And this is got to, by the looks of things, this will probably be done by certified contractors in the pack houses. That because now it's additional infrastructure that some of the growers will need to be put into the pack houses to be able to do that. And you know a little bit more about it, that fruit being shipped to the States needs to be methyl bromide treated. But if I'm correct, it gets treated when it lands in the States. Am I correct in saying that?
For some of the fruit that is exported to the States, the methyl bromide treatment has been standard practice. I don't know if it's still happening. It was in the past. Not too sure about that. But I think what one can definitely look at is the fact that methyl bromide is a deadly gas. It is a deadly gas. If you take a lungful of that, you won't get to the second lungful. So it's something that would have to be very, very carefully monitored and put in. Wow, methyl bromide, that's a big one. Well, look, we also know the South African fruit industry is incredibly resilient and, as they say, a boer maak 'n plan. So they will have to do this. But methyl bromide, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, and they are worried that it might damage the peels of the avos. Look, I presume, again, and this is our speculation, what we're saying here, it's just what, from our industry experience doing these kind of things, these kind of tests had to be done before the protocol was signed. Right, so
Sorry.
No, sorry, you were
What
saying?
I need to add about methyl bromide, and I should have said that immediately. Methyl bromide is, the treatment is normally done that you enclose the fruit into a tightly sealed space. They release the methyl bromide and allow it to travel across the fruit, move through the boxes, go through all the boxes to kill any kind of bugs that are there. And once it is released into the atmosphere, it goes up into the atmosphere and it dissipates. And once it's gone, it's gone. It's not anything that sticks around and stays on the fruit. So it doesn't poison the fruit in any way, which is an important thing to add. Yes. So it's a gas. It goes in, it kills any bugs or whatever, but once it's gone, it's gone. So just as an addition that I have to add there.
Yes, and also, from my understanding in a few Avopack houses that I've been in, is that they do have ethylene scrubbers in their cold storage, because obviously as soon as ethylene gets to the avos, they start ripening. I don't know what kind of infrastructure investment will have to be done to ensure that these things can be exported towards protocol. I'm pretty sure we'll find out in the next couple of months.
Yes, well, it's certainly something to take note of and find out about and potentially report on, because this is methyl bromide. As they say in Afrikaans, dis nie ligte musiek nie. That's heavy stuff. And in order to be implementing that, there will need to be an incredible amount of safety protocols and things surrounding that. So that'll be an interesting development.
The next interesting development is following. As I understand it, shipping options are currently limited to cooled break bulk containers. While as an industry, the industry is mostly using reefer containers to ship avocados to Europe. So this brings in another critical thing. Wherever this stuff is going to be stored at a port, there will be specific cooling tunnels will need to be there that also removes ethylene and all those kind of things. And often a lot of these cooling places have got other fruit in the same facility. So, and it's then got to be in break bulk. So that means different pallet heights when packing the fruit. So you don't pack a high cube container anymore. You've got to pack them lower pallets, which meaning you've got to pack more pallets. There's some logistics involved.
It changes the whole logistics chain, because if you're dealing with break bulk, I mean that is from where you're packaging the fruit all the way till when it arrives. It's a completely different system to going in containers. So what you're saying here is the industry is going to have to reinvent itself to some extent.
I wouldn't say reinvent itself. I just think it's that there's going to have to be done. A lot of adaptations will need to be done, especially if you've got a pack house. Now, we also know with the China protocols that the China protocol stipulates that you're not allowed to pack for different markets in the same pack house at the same time. So if you're packing China, all the fruit in the pack house is supposed to only be for China. Now, we also know big pack houses, that could be difficult to do because they are fulfilling a lot of orders. To stop a whole pack house, move it around just to accommodate China is a difficult thing to do. It's not impossible, but it's got its challenges. So now you've got your staff has got to be up to speed. it's a whole rigmarole
This
just to
is
get.
this is something which I think we should investigate. We should go there. I'm just chatting to you now as well, but this bears investigation. And as and when these changes are being made, it's definitely something that should be documented. So I think if anybody from the avocado industry, the South African Avocado Growers Association is listening, we'll be coming to speak to you soon to find out how this is going to be done and where it's going to be done, because it's definitely something that would need to be documented and illustrated as it is being undertaken. So
yeah, it's very interesting news.
Interesting to look forward to.
Okay, so then touching, I don't know if it's connected in any way. The next thing that I found is on Eurofruit that Westphalia expands Mozambique backhouse. So it's the long and short of this is that it's investing more money into Mozambique, expanding the operation there. Now, my question from this, connecting to the previous one, is what is the protocols of avos being exported through Mozambique to China? Do they have the same protocols? Is it a lot easier? Can they export in containers? Then those kind of things kind of make sense. Again, we don't know. This is purely speculation, and we're asking questions. So if anybody do know, please let us know.
I'm looking at this article. Is there any indication of where the fruit is going to from Mozambique?
No, nothing is being said in the article. From our experience, we know that fruit being shipped out of Mozambique is often destined for the Middle East and Far East.
Yeah, it's Indian Ocean shipments. It is likely going to the east. So that would also be something interesting that we could look into and find out a little bit more about, because the avocado market out of Africa is really heating up, and I know that Kenya is exporting a lot of avocados, and it's interesting to see that
also to China, and it would be. I would also be keen to see what their protocols is regarding that.
Yes, so that's an interesting topic, and we did something about avocado protocols to Japan. We've done that for the avo industry,
yes.
And I mean, obviously that was completely different, but these protocols for access to China, you might find that they are still exploring how it's going to be done, where it's going to be done, and in the short to medium term, those specific details might still change. As that headline of the first article we discussed, it says, South African avo industry awaits finalized post-harvest and shipping protocols with China. So in other words, it's not set in stone yet. They're probably working on it. This is a starting point, and things might develop from there.
Yeah. Anyway, It is. I found it very interesting, just because.
It is indeed.
And I think we need to give a little bit of a background as to. I did mention it earlier as to why we've got the experience.
Why are we interested in this? Why do we know a little bit about it?
Yes, in 2020, the fruit industry came to us and said that China wanted to live stream inspect packhouses and orchards in South Africa to see if protocols were being followed. And China couldn't travel at that stage, or their borders wasn't open. And we assisted table grapes, citrus, apples, pears with these inspections all over the country and into Zimbabwe. And we learned a heap of things. I loved it. It was absolutely fascinating to learn all these things. And now that you can walk into a pack house and just walking into a facility and you already spot this could be an issue, that could be an issue. Yeah, it is.
So just to expand a little bit on what Dewald was saying is that when China, they couldn't travel to here and they insisted on live stream inspections. That was between the South African government, the DALRAD, Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and their Chinese counterpart, the customs official on the other side. And how this would work, it worked via Zoom. They would set up a time and a place. They would choose a pack house or a PUC.
They would randomly nominate.
Randomly nominated anywhere in the country, and then the South African team would have to jump into action and make it happen. And what we would do is we would be the facilitators. The South African government and the Chinese government would speak to each other, and we provided a South African, based in South Africa, a very experienced Mandarin translator, who in fact just chatted to me day before yesterday, was telling me that they undertook all of the translations for the BRICS Summit. And this chap would sit and translate between South Africa and China. And then we were live streaming this whole thing. And then also we facilitated the walk through the pack house with the pack house manager, for the pack house manager to show the whole packing process from where they come into the pack house till where the fruit leaves the pack house, and make sure that and the important part, to make sure that they were adhering to all and the very complex principles of what the Chinese market required from South Africa to do. So it was high stakes stuff, quite high stakes, very important, very significant to keep the South African market open to China. And there were a lot of nerves and a lot of things happening, and it was pretty intimidating to see the Chinese government people sitting around a table and grilling the South African government with questions. So in the process of having to walk through these pack houses with people, we had to go to them and work through them the whole China protocol and what is allowed, what isn't allowed, what needs to be shown, what didn't need to be shown. And it was an incredible opportunity for us and a learning curve. And also a lot of it was placating the poor pack house manager who's probably never been in front of a camera before, and he has to do all of this in English now to China. So yes, it was an incredible learning curve over
and
3 years.
Cell phone signals and internet and getting speeds boosted, and it was a massive project. And like I said, we really enjoyed it.
Indeed, and we learned a lot, particularly about the practical side of pack houses. So
and live streaming.
And indeed live streaming. And so back to the avocados, seeing these details here about the methyl bromide and the break bulk, those might just be little words on a piece of paper here, but we know we don't know that much, but we have an inkling of how massive those requirements will be if those become the permanent requirements for avocado shipments to China. So let's watch the space and see where it goes.
Yes. Right. So, okay. Well, this is not going to be a 45-minute one like it was yesterday. So let's start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
So what we've been talking about is the 10th International Table Grape Symposium coming up to South Africa. That's at the end of November, beginning December.
Exciting. So, international conference.
Yes, international conference, and it's being held every 4 years, and the previous one was done in Chile, and at that conference South Africa won the bid to host the next one. And interestingly enough, we created a video for SASEF that they showcased at the event.
SASEF is the South African Society of Enology and Viticulture. So they are working with SATI to host the conference. And
correct.
So the video that Dewald is referring to, it was our very first commissioned video in 2020, just before COVID started, and it's still our most watched video.
It wasn't the first commissioned one. It was probably like one of the first two that we've delivered as Lucentlands to clients. And if you go, I'll put the link in the comments on this thing. If you go back to this, we recorded the voiceover for this in a car with a little handheld recorder.
Come a long way since then.
It's a big learning curve, but it was still a lot of fun, like always. So I'm gonna.
And we're currently working on a series of videos for the upcoming event.
Yes,
so
and for those involved. And for those interested, we just heard this morning that seats are filling up incredibly fast. So you need to go to the ITGS website, which I'll also put in the comments, and you need to register in case you're still interested in coming. It's going to be a big event in the South African table grape industry and international table grape industry, and it should not be missed.
And we were just chatting to the people from SATI earlier this morning, and we are probably going to have a chat like this next week sometime, where they'll be telling us more about what's happening at the event. So we looking forward to that as well. Dewald, you're going to play in the video, the promotional video for it now?
Yes, so let me put it in here.
Yes, thanks very much for putting it in. If that doesn't get you excited about South Africa and the South African table grape industry, I don't know what will. So excited.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a very cool event. It's a lot of it is science-based, which could be very interesting. So yes, please register for that.
Okay. Well, I think, Dewald, we've spoken enough for the morning. I think we can wrap it up, and then we'll be back on Monday.
Yes. Monday is a public holiday in South Africa, if there's any international people. But listen, we work for ourselves. There's no such thing as a public holiday. So let's see. Maybe there's some interesting things happening over the weekend, or we find interesting subjects, and we'll chat about it.
Okay, great stuff.
Basically, if you're not listening to us, you're probably going to have to be mowing the lawn or doing the dishes. So might as well tune in.
There you go. Okay. Well, we'll chat again next week. Keep well. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.